It's Thursday, 11 o'clock, and we are back. It's time for this week's Watch Drop. Welcome back, everyone, and Happy New Year to you. This week, we don't have the usual spread on the table because the subdial elves are working furiously to take photographs. But I'm going to run through 11 watches here that I am so excited for. So let's jump into it. If you're still in the Christmas spirit, I've got something for you. This is a Cartier Pasha in full rose gold with a diamond bezel. I don't actually think I've seen one of these on rose gold with a bracelet. It's quite something. It's 35 millimeters. Importantly, it doesn't have the date window, which I think ruins the lines of the Pasha. But honestly, you put this on and it just makes you want to go out and party. The Cartier Pasha design DNA is so strong. There really is nothing quite like it on the market. And of course, that's why we all go for Cartier. This is a great watch. The next watch is one that back in the 70s was fairly cheap, tool-esque watch, but nowadays is hugely collectible. And in many ways, it crosses over with the Paul Newman Daytona. Similar era, similar architecture, similar complication. But this is the Tudor Monte Carlo. It's got an added date wheel, which I think is actually quite useful, but it's very, very 70s in its design aesthetic. That bright orange accent on the seconds hand and also in the subdials just makes it unmistakably Tudor. Because these watches were so affordable back in the 70s, they were treated really badly in the same way that you might treat a low value watch these days, like a G-Shock. And that's the reason why these things are so impressive. When you find one like this in amazing condition with all of its box and papers still together, how on earth has that been lying around somewhere for 50 years and still kept intact? The Monte Carlo really is one of Tudor's strongest models, and they've tried to re-invoke it in the Tudor Heritage line, but this is the original, and I think this is the one that collectors really want. The next watch is a classic from Rolex. It's a 36mm day date in yellow gold, but this one has a Khanjar stamped on the front. Now, there's a background around why these watches were produced, who they were produced for, but I don't think you necessarily need to know all the background. I think aesthetically, this watch works so much better than just the monochromatic dials. The little pop of red, for me, who's got no association with the Sultan of Oman or any of the people that were given these watches, I just like the look of it. The Khanjar symbol I find quite interesting in that there are many different dial stamps that you get on Rolexes across the ages, but this is one that's really strong and evokes a certain feeling when you look at it. And it's really interesting that collectors seem to have chosen this as the most collectible, the most interesting. I know certain collectors that have collected all of the different dial variations, all with a Khanjar symbol on it. I think that's really interesting. These watches will no doubt continue to be collectible in the years to come, and I think this one won't hang around for long. Next up is a neo-vintage icon. This is the Corum Golden Bridge. Now, there's nothing quite like this watch. I have to say, it's certainly not for the hairy-wristed. Because when you put this watch on, you get to see everything that's behind the watch. And I think that's quite something. There's no doubt about it. This is very, very striking. How they get the architecture to all line up in one plane is so impressive. And how this crystal is still perfectly transparent, I don't know. It's really very special. It's just an impressive thing. It really is. It comes together as something that actually is unparalleled in the neo-vintage world. And that's interesting because they were really trying for all kinds of different designs back then. They were pushing the boat out, and this is one that is so unique in its design aesthetic. No one else even tries to create something as bold as this. I think it's very cool, and it's absolutely a neo-vintage icon. Coming up now to two Langes. One that I think is actually really great value, and the other is just a tour de force. First up, this is an 1815 small seconds. It's the same case as the up-down, 36 millimeters, maybe 35. The way that this watch has got that sort of perfectly plain opaline dial, Arabic numerals, blued hands. The movement is just Lange through and through. German silver, Côte de Genève, but German. Wow, what a thing. I think these are still so overlooked. Actually, with my tweed jacket on today, such a timeless design aesthetic. I love this watch. I think it's brilliant. But if you're looking for a powerhouse of a Lange, the Lange 1 Perpetual in platinum is it. Now, you feel that new watch squeak. I like that. The Lange 1 has that very strong design DNA, and actually that's a bit of a theme for this week. But I love the way that Lange have incorporated a perpetual calendar, and still this is the Lange 1 architecture from the face of the watch. You know, they could have made this watch so much more complicated, much more detail on the watch, but instead they've kept that simple aesthetic. I don't know how they've done it, frankly. It's a very, very impressive design layout. For me, that's the true test of a good perpetual calendar, one that shows all of that information but doesn't overwhelm the user. It's a really, really difficult thing to do, and I think Lange have knocked it out of the park with this. With all of these watches on the table today, I think the one that I really want to take home with me is this small neo-vintage Audemars Piguet. It's actually the value proposition, which surprises me because usually I go for the most expensive thing here, but this is so vibrant, it punches so high above its value point. It's a hobnail bezel, but the hobnail pattern is continuous through the dial, but then you have this almost lacquery, sort of almost enamel looking finish in a vibrant cobalt blue, offset with white hands, white indices in an ultra thin case, and the hobnail finish continues on the tops of the lugs. I don't get it. I think this watch is spectacular. For all of those people that think that we just focus on really expensive top tier watchmaking, well, this is the perfect example of a value proposition in neo-vintage watchmaking. I really want it, and I probably should buy it. But, oh gosh, what a thing. Speaking of neo-vintage gems, well, this is one from Cartier. It's a Tonneau, and it's a pre-CP era. So it's sort of 80s, 90s watch, but before they started doing the Cartier Paris all squished up on the dial together. What I love about this watch is that you've got the design characteristics from the Centre. It's a curved case. It's an unbelievably satisfying curved sapphire too. But you've also got, in 2 dimensions, a really ornate but very dressy looking design. That can only be produced by Cartier. No one could do something like that that's not Cartier. I think the eggshell dial feels vintage, but actually it's not that vintage. It is that sweet spot of neo-vintage. The strap itself is quite narrow. It's only 13 millimeters, but that doesn't make it feel feminine at all. I just love it. I think it's a very comfortable daily wearer watch that you can dress up, dress down, and look super, super cool. The next watch isn't one that you might expect me to pick out of the line. It's not amazingly special. It's not incredibly collectible, but for some reason, I've always gravitated towards this model from Rolex. It's the Date 840 in white gold. It's got an olive green dial, and it's an anniversary release for the brand. I just think the colors on that work so well. I really do. There's something about it's almost that mint green, but they call it olive green. But it's so well executed. 40 millimeters is probably a little bit big for me, but they make the most of the dial, and the sort of Roman indices around the outside are so sparkly and shiny. It just works. It comes to, there's no other way of saying it. I just think this watch works really well, and I would love to have that as a daily wearer, frankly. It's a bit flashy, but it's really special. From a relatively standard Rolex, now moving on to something slightly more interesting and niche for a number of reasons. It's a steel Daytona. It's a Zenith Daytona, but it has a floating dial. And that makes it so much more collectible. It's actually quite impressive. When I talk about the floating dial, what does that really mean? Well, actually, it just refers to the fact that there's a little space between the text at the top of the dial and the cosmograph writing. There's about 1 millimeter of a gap. And Rolex collectors are a funny bunch. They'll pay for flat 4s on bezels. They'll pay for Bart Simpson coronets on dials, frog feet, all of it. This one is one of the more interesting ones because it just looks like the template that they've used to stamp the dial just had a slightly different gap on it. Maybe someone was having an off day at work and they stamped out a load of dials with slightly more of a gap than the others. But that gap to collectors of these things is the world. It's worth £20,000 more than your average Zenith Daytona, and that's already quite an expensive and collectible watch. I think this part of watch collecting is fascinating. It's almost a sort of psychological thing that I can't quite get my head around. These are the nichest niches that are out there, and I think it's fascinating and I'm all for it. That's quite expensive real estate. The last watch in the drop comes from Bamford watches. This was a very, very limited run of watches produced for the guys at Disney. It's a Rolex, but you can't tell that in any way from any part of the watch other than the shape of it. Let me explain. The base of this watch is an Air King. It's a no-date two-hander, that's fine, but everything else has been stripped away from it. There's no Rolex on the dial, there's no rehort that's etched, there's no Rolex on the crown that's been polished down, there's no coronet on the clasp either. Every single point of which you could read Rolex on an Air King has been removed. The case and the bracelets have been PVD coated in silver, which creates a sort of matte, sort of satinated finish, which is really nice. And then the dial has a sort of carbon fiber effect black with the illustration of Mickey Mouse. I imagine actually if you're an illustrator, this is kind of like the holy grail watch, because this is where it all began, right? This is animation in its very earliest form. I think it's quite poetic how two icons have come together to create this one watch. You've stripped away all of the branding from Rolex, but you're left with that iconic Mickey Mouse arms flailing around telling you the time. But it's a true celebration of Disney, and I know that there are many people quite rightly look at Disney as a really special brand that's evolved through the ages. And if you're one of those people that also collects watches, this is a very rare and special thing. I think it's great. I think it's a really cool watch. So that's this week's drop. It's so good to be back. I'm excited for 2026. These watches on the table are just a little hint of what's hitting the site. There's 100 watches going live this morning, so please go hit the website, check them out. And if you're lucky enough to beat me to that AP, then good on you. I hope you don't, because I really want it for myself. Anyway, see you next week. Thanks again.